everyone, welcome back to CBSE Learners. This is me Pooja N.K. Rao. I welcome you all to my online classes where you can learn absolutely free of cost. Then you should subscribe our channel for more videos and don't forget to hit the bell icon as you won't be notified about our videos if we publish any new videos. Okay. So in my previous video, I have already completed the part 1 of The Selfish Giant by Oscar Wilde. If you have not checked out that video, then you just go and check out that video. Okay. So today we are going to discuss the part 2 of The Selfish Giant, and the question answers of the comprehension check I will be uploading separate video, and both the question answers from both the parts I will be uploading in that video. Okay. So let's start with the part 2. Now what happens, they have given some introduction around which the story is going to revolve, and you can call it a summary also. To celebrate the return of the children, trees covered themselves with birds and blossoms. So we can understand that somehow the children managed to enter the garden of the selfish giant. So once the children have entered the garden, the birds, the trees, they are celebrating to welcome them. So the garden was filled with blossoms. The giant was delighted to see his friends back, especially a little boy whom he loved dearly. Okay? The little boy soon disappeared only to return much later. And we will find out later that this little boy, who is that boy and about where he disappeared. So at that day he will be meeting the little boy, but after some time the boy happens to disappear. So where he went and when the boy will return once again to meet the giant, in this part 2 we will be learning about that. Let's start the lesson. He saw a most wonderful sight. Through a little hole in the wall the children had crept in. So they crawled through a little hole on the inside the giant's garden. They entered through the little hole which was inside the wall. And they were sitting in the branches of the trees. In every tree that he could see, there was a child. So, as we have seen that every trees were filled with blossoms. So, in every tree there was a child. And the trees were so glad to have the children back again that they had covered themselves with blossoms and were waving their arms gently above the children's head. So, it's like a personification that they were so happy with the children's return that they just waved their hand over their head, okay, like they were shaking their branches. So you have to understand that they were shaking their branches. The birds were flying about and twittering with delight, and the flowers were looking up through the green grass and laughing. It was a lovely scene. So the scene was absolutely lovely and pretty. Okay, only in one corner it was still winter, but in astonishment, inside one corner there was still winter. Now we will find out why there was still winter. It was the farthest corner of the garden, and in it was standing a little boy. So it was one of the farthest corner of the garden, and there was standing a little small boy. He was so small that he could not reach up to the branches of the tree, and he was wandering all round, crying bitterly. The poor tree was still covered with frost and snow, and the north wind was blowing and roaring above it. "Climb up, little boy," said the tree, and it bent its branches down as low as foot. But the boy was too tiny. So the tree also wanted to give some blossoms, right? So the tree was trying to bend its arms or its branches, and he was telling the boy to climb up on the tree. But the boy was so small, too tiny, that it was unable for him to climb up the tree. And the giant's heart melted as he looked out. "How selfish I have been," he said. So by seeing that scenery, giant's heart melted. He felt so sad for the boy, and he felt that how selfish I have been, that I was depriving all these children from my garden, and as it was a pleasure for the children. So they were enjoying in my garden. So how selfish I can be to deprive them of this small pleasure. He said, "Now I know why the spring would not come here. I will put that poor little boy on the top of the tree, and then I will knock down the wall, and my garden shall be the children's playground forever and ever." So he said that Now I know that why, that he knew the reason. Now that time he came to know about the reason why the spring was not spring, summer, autumn. Why that there was no change of season. Why there was always winter prevailing over the giant's garden, as he was not allowing the children to play there. Okay, so he decided that he is going to put that small boy on the branch, and then he will be knocking off the wall. He will knock down the wall, and he will break the wall. Knock down means break. Okay, so it's a phrasal verb. Okay, knock down. So sometimes you have to know the phrasal verb. Okay, so this knock down is a phrasal verb. It means break down or break. Okay, to break. Now, to break the wall. Okay, now my garden shall, and he decided that his garden shall always be the children's playground. Okay, so he crept downstairs and opened the front door quite softly and went out into the garden. But when the children saw him, they were so frightened that they all ran away. So he decided and he crept downstairs. He went downstairs of his castle and he opened the door. When he opened the door, the children, by seeing the selfish giant, as they were having a terror inside them that he is a giant and he won't allow us, and they have hiddenly came inside his garden. Okay, so they were, as usual, they were children and small children, so they felt that we should escape from him, and they were frightened by seeing the selfish giant. Okay, now that they all ran away and garden became winter again. So when they all ran away, the garden once again became winter, the spring, and they stopped blooming. Okay, and the giant stole up behind him and took him gently in his hand and put him up into the tree. So only the little boy did not run, for his eyes were so full of tears that he did not see the giant coming. So the little boy only, he was unable to run. So what happened? He was unable to see the giant, as his eyes were full of tears, as he was unable. The boy was so sad and his eyes were full of tears that he was unable to see the giant coming. Okay, so what did the giant do? The giant stole up behind him. Then what does the word stole up means? It's also a phrasal verb. Okay, stole up. It means came quietly. Came quietly without being noticed. Without being noticed. Okay, so the giant stole up behind him and took him gently in his hand and put him up into the tree. And the tree broke at once into blossoms, and the birds came and sang on it. And the little boy stretched out his 2 arms and flung them round giant's neck and kissed him. So in happiness, what the child do? So once he put the child on the branch, what happened? The whole tree filled up with blossoms, and the birds came to sing. And what happened? The little boy was so happy that he flung his arm around giant's neck. That means he hugged the giant and kissed the giant. And the other children, when they saw the giant was not wicked any longer, wicked means bad person. Okay, so any longer, came running back with them came the spring. So when they came running back along with them, the spring too came back in his garden. It is your garden now, little children. And the giant, and he saved the giant and took a great axe and knocked down the wall. And when the people were going to the market at 12 o'clock, they found the giant playing with the little children in most beautiful garden they have ever seen. So why it is called as the most beautiful garden they have ever seen? Because there will be so many gardens, but they were seeing a giant, a selfish giant who was known for his selfishness, a giant. So the giant was playing with a lot of children. So that was a beautiful sight, isn't it? So to the people who are passing by, who are the passers-by, it was the most beautiful sight they have ever seen. Okay. Now, all day long they played, and in the evening they came to the giant to bid him goodbye. So all day they will play, and at the evening they will come to the giant to bid him goodbye to return to the next day. But where is your little companion? He said. The boy I put into the tree. The giant loved him the best because he had kissed him. So he was inquiring about the little boy whom he had put on the tree. Okay, so he was asking where is the little companion, is where is your little friend whom I have put on the tree, and he was liking him the best because the boy had kissed the giant. We don't know, answered the children. He has gone away. You must tell him to be sure and come tomorrow. So the giant was telling to the other little children that you must tell your little companion to come tomorrow. Okay. So the giant was missing the boy. So he got some affection towards the boy. But every afternoon when school was over, you must tell him. But the children said that they did not know where he lived and had never seen him before. And the giant felt very sad. But surprisingly, the children, they didn't know about the boy's address, that where he lived. So they said to the giant that they were unaware of his address where he lived. And so the giant felt sad as he was unable to, he may be not able to see the boy again. Every afternoon when school was over, the children came and played with the giant. But a little boy whom the giant loved was never seen again. So every afternoon the children came to the giant's garden. But the little boy whom the giant loved the most, he didn't see the boy once again. So he sat in a huge... Okay, the giant was very kind to all the children, yet he longed for his little friend and often spoke of him. How I would like to see him, he used to say. So he was very polite with the other children, but still he longed to see his little friend or the little boy. Years went by and the giant grew very old and feeble. So years passed by, the giant, he grew old and feeble, weak and old. Feeble means weak. He could not play about anymore, so he sat in a huge armchair and watched the children at their games and admired his garden. I have many beautiful flowers, he said, but the children are the most beautiful flowers of all. So he used to sit, as he grew old and weak, he was unable to play with the children. So what he used to do, he used to sit on an armchair, and there he used to watch children playing. And he used to admire his garden, that he is having a lot of beautiful flowers, but children are the most beautiful flowers he had ever seen. And his garden is happy. One winter morning, he looked out of his window as he was dressing. He did not hate the winter now. So it was winter morning, okay, and he was looking out of the window, and now and at that time he didn't hate the winter. Why? Because he knew that the spring is definitely going to come in his garden, as he is having a lot of children who used to come to play in his garden. For he knew it was merely spring asleep, that the flowers were resting. Suddenly he rubbed his eyes in wonder and looked and looked. It certainly was a marvelous sight. In the farthest corner of the garden was a tree quite covered with very lovely white blossoms. So as he was looking at his garden, suddenly he saw that only in one tree there were white blossoms, means white flowers on that tree. So it was surprising that it was winter, and in that farthest corner of the garden there were white blossoms. Its branches were golden and silver fruit hung down from them, and underneath it stood the little boy he had loved. So its branches were like golden in color, and silver fruit were hanging from that tree. And under the tree there was that little boy, that small boy. Downstairs ran the giant in great joy and out into the garden. So the giant was so happy to see the boy once again after these many years. So in excitement, in happiness, in joy, he ran downstairs to meet the boy to the garden. He hastened across the grass and came near to the child. And when he came quite close, his face grew red with anger. So why his face grew with anger? When he came close to the boy, his face grew with anger. Now why? As he said, who hath dared to wound thee? So this is the old English. Who hath means who have dared to wound thee. Thee is you. Okay. Hath is have. So who have, these are all archaic English, means old English. Okay. So for one, the palms of the child's hands were prints of two names. So on both the hands there was a print of 2 nails. Means somebody has nailed the child. And the prints of 2 nails were on the little feet. Even on the little feet there were prints of nail. Now, what can you recall something by this image? So this is a beautiful image, and this reminds us of the Jesus Christ, Lord Jesus Christ, as he was crucified and he was nailed, isn't it, on his both hands and palms. So this is one of the image we can relate with Lord Jesus Christ. Okay. Who had dared to wound thee? Cried the giant. Tell me, I may take my big sword and slay him. So he became too angry and he said that, who had dared to wound you? Who had hurted you? Just tell me. I am just going to take my axe and spade and I am just going to cut with my big sword and slay him. Means cut his head. Okay. So I am going to cut his head and I am going to kill that person who had wounded you. Okay. Nay, answered the child. So these are all archaic English. Okay. Nay means no. Slay means kill. Okay. Kill. Have. Thee. You. Okay. Nay, answered the child, but these are the wounds of love. So he was telling, so you know that when Jesus was crucified, the people who crucified Jesus, he never took revenge on them, isn't it? So they always thought that he is getting that punishment to remove all the sins of the mankind. Okay, humankind. So he was getting punished as he want to remove all the sins of the human beings or people. So he always said that not to take revenge. Okay. So he said these are wounds of love, not hate. Who art thou? So who are you? So thou is also you. So he asked thou. Okay. Thou is also you. These are all archaic English. Said the giant, and a strange awe fell on him. He fell before the little child. So means surprisingly, he knelt before the child. And the child smiled on the giant and said to him, you let me play once in your garden. Today you shall come with me to my garden, which is paradise. So the child said when he knelt in front, so he asked, who are you? That you are telling, if normally any human being, they will definitely try to take that revenge. But he is telling, because the people have wounded him, he was telling now that these are wounds of love. Okay, so it was surprisingly for the giant. So in surprise, he asked, who are you? And he bended in front of the child. So the child answered that once you have allowed me to play in your garden, now you come to my garden, which is paradise. Now paradise is nothing but heaven. Okay, so here the author has created the image of Christ. Okay, so the Christ has come in the form of a little boy, and he has come to take the giant. Okay, so as he was old and it was his time for death. Okay, now and paradise is nothing but heaven. Okay, paradise is heaven. As he did good work by letting he was a giant, but he changed himself and he allowed these children to play in his garden. So the Jesus Christ only had come to take him to the heaven. Okay. And when the children ran in the afternoon, they found the giant lying dead under the tree, all covered with white blossoms. So when the children came to meet the giant that afternoon, they saw that the giant was lying dead under that tree and he was covered with all white blossoms. Okay. So this is having a beautiful meaning that though he was a giant, as he changed himself, he was escorted by the God. He was escorted by the Jesus Christ, our Lord, our Christ, and to the heaven. Okay, so this is a beautiful and amazing story. I hope you like the story, and in my upcoming videos I will be uploading the comprehension check of both the part. Okay, so I hope you like this video. If you like this video, just hit the like button and share with your friends if you think it's useful for them. Okay, thanks a lot. Take care.